Okay, so this is going to be a VOD review on KT versus SKTelecom. This match occurred earlier on this week, and then there's actually going to be a rematch on Sunday. So we're going to start off here with game number one. We're going to actually go through the pick ban phase, and this is actually the only one I did not get to watch. I caught it right at the very bitter end. So KT banning away Malzahar, Wolf extremely good on that. The engagement tool that it offers is just too valuable. In addition to that, Malzahar in 7.3 isn't really that nerfed. Some of his lane potency is taken away, but for the most part, his engagement offer in the mid game and his flash, Nether Grasp, whatever. But then on top of that, his control on red side is pretty scary because it also enables you to break blue side stalls. So it's okay. SKTelecom responded with a Rengar ban against Score. Okay. And now Varus gets banned away by SKTelecom. Lee Sin banned away by KT, I think is pretty interesting. Because I think that what that means is that they're trying to secure themselves Graves for the first pick and force Peanut into the Elise matchup, which is going to be technically advantageous in the matchup, but Graves as a whole is the best jungler currently in the game. Camille banned away by KT last, I think is pretty interesting. I still think that Camille is a very interesting pick, and I do still think that she's extremely powerful. But they opt to ban her away. LeBlanc being banned away by SKTelecom is the final ban. It's pretty standard. First pick, Jace. Extremely flexible. Can go on to Pawn, can go on to Smeb. Not really too much. So SKTelecom, if they want to just play this safe, they can respond with jungler. They can do jungler ADC here or jungler support. They could pick up Jhin. If they really want to, they could pick up Ashe to soft counter the Jhin. Bang really loves his Ezreal. They can pick up the support. Okay, so Karma being picked up for Wolf. Unlikely that that's ever going to be flexed. And they could pick up jungler here if they want to play it safe. But instead, they're actually opting to go straight into the bottom lane, saying that they don't really care necessarily what they're up against, and they want to know a little bit more about KT's composition before they choose their jungler or their top laner. And this is a little bit concerning because it gives KT the ability to also pick Graves, and that's something that's very obnoxious to deal with if they were to pick it. Like, for instance, right now, KT could actually just go Rumble Graves here, and then they can let their bottom lane get banned away because you can't ban away all the AD carries or all the supports. And with the Ezreal being picked, that would require SKTelecom to ban away both Ashe and Jhin, but then Caitlyn's still on the table. Interesting, they pick Talon. Oh, no, they don't. They hover to Elise, and now what they're saying is that they want a little bit more pick potential. The Elise pick is interesting. One of the things that the Graves pick would also do, though, is it would enable Bang to actually go into Iceborne Gauntlet instead of Trinity Force. So they do Elise Rumble, and they do give up everything with their bottom lane, and that's primarily because with only Varus having been banned away and Malzahar, there's still too much room. SKTelecom can definitely adjust, and now SKT is actually going to pick the Graves, so they're going to have the disadvantageous matchup, specifically in the jungle, but they're going to be at an advantage overall because Graves is a better champion in that regard. But this is definitely very interesting opening. So you have the top mid jungle for KT, and then you have the bottom lane jungler for SKT. And they should have gotten to this point anyway. It was just peculiar how they chose to go about it. Because maybe if the Graves is picked where Ezreal is, then it actually changes KT's draft up a little bit. That doesn't matter so much. Nami gets banned away as a response because SKTelecom has Karma. And now the other potential option is what? To ban away like Caitlyn? You can ban away Kate, I guess. You can ban away Kate, or you can ban away, interesting, Tom Kench. Okay. Tom's pretty interesting because SKTelecom hasn't showed what they wanted for mid or top yet. And so with Ashe already having... Oh, what the... Wait, what? Wait. Oh, okay, most picks. Sorry, I was looking at the very bottom. Okay. Nautilus. Okay. They're hovering it. gonna have red side Nautilus with red side Graves versus blue side Jace. Sort of alleviates the pressure. Jace can win early on, but he's gonna lose out later. So that's actually a pretty good dynamic for them right there, especially because red side Nautilus is gonna be pretty safe against Elise, but Elise, oh no, I'm sorry. It's gonna be actually Nautilus versus Rumble. Oh, that's actually bad. Never mind, that changes the entire dynamic. I'm so sorry. I'm forgetting that Jace is actually mid lane. Okay, and there's the Caitlyn that I was saying that I thought that they should have banned away. Blue side Thresh as a Baron breaker. Thresh is inherently stronger on blue side than he is on red side because of how he can interact with the map. And now SKT hovering Rise. If they do lock that in, then they have an enormous mid-game spike, around 23, 24 minutes relative to Bang and Faker. But they also have some they don't have a lot, they have some potency in the very early stages of the mid-game, 15 to 18 minutes, right? But their early game is relatively weak across the board when you consider all the matchups. So, okay, it's going to go into loading. Now we're going to go ahead. So here's the thing here. This team composition, the way that you can look at this is Pawn doesn't, well, he has the ability to go into some magic resistance early on, but for the most part, he's running Exhaust against Faker's Rise that also has the Ghost, not the Cleanse, even though there's the Elise component. So that guy from Worlds is having a heart attack right now. But anyways, so the Jace Elise versus the Graves Rise, because this is going to be red side Graves, he's going to have more incentive to be on the left-hand side of the map, especially because it's extremely difficult for Graves to want to path to the right-hand side because Graves gets a lot of benefit from the Wraith camp and the Golem camp. But then on top of that, he doesn't have much incentive on the bottom half of the map because of the fact that his bottom lane have so many gears available to them, but naturally they want to tend to scale up because you want that tier on Ezreal. So the thing that we're looking at right here is you have Elise versus Graves Rise, and all that Graves really needs to do is he needs to be defensive in manner, and if Rise just plays around him and they constantly match gank or counter gank, it's always going to be advantageous to SKTelecom. If SKTelecom initiate a gank onto Jace for some reason, the only thing that KT has available to them is a match gank. They don't have a counter gank potential, because if Jace ends up getting caught out by Graves and Rise, there's no way that Elise showing up should be able to realistically turn the fight. So we can look at that. Now, the other thing up in top lane is you have Rumble Elise versus Graves Nautilus. And because it's red side Nautilus, Rumble has a lot more flexibility with how he can poke and annoy Nautilus. In addition to that, it's also a lot easier for him to constrict the areas that Graves can approach from. So even though Graves has more incentive, as we talked about on the left-hand side of the map being red side Graves, he doesn't really have the cleanest of openings. And then in addition to that, if Graves were to go up to top lane with Huni and try to coordinate a gank onto Smeb, if score match or counter ganks, it's just absolutely catastrophic because the level of committance that these two champions have versus the committance that these two champions have inside of an engagement. In addition to that, Smeb is always going to have the long lane, and because he's going to have the long lane and Graves doesn't have much incentive to approach from long angles or something like this, right? It's not going to be necessarily too good for him. So that's what we can see right at the very beginning, and we can approach it from there. So right now, Smeb and Score are moving up. They don't want Peanut to start on the Wraith camp, it seems, or at least they're just trying to get some intel in on what exactly is happening. But for the most part, it seems like both teams are actually fanning out. Little poke going down for Wolf. This is actually a pretty big win for them right now. He gets some support gold, and he gets some damage off onto Mata. Don't think that Mata will actually have that HP at the very beginning of the laning phase. Cloud Drake is the opening dragon of the game. If that's going to be advantageous for any team, it's probably actually going to be more advantageous for KT than it is SKTelecom, because SKTelecom have the luxury of being on the red side and having the defensive Rise ultimates. So okay, Smeb comes down and wards the red, and Peanut gets the leash. Okay, Pawn ends up leashing for Score. And bottom lane is playing out as per usual. So now, the thing here that's interesting is, we can already talk about this. So Peanut can't really go like this. Okay, he can't do this. Unless Rumble hard shoves early on. Because if Rumble gets the lane into a position like this, then Peanut can actually he has incentive to do this. Okay, and then if he does this breakaway and they know that Elise starts on the right-hand side, then Peanut knows that while he's doing this, Elise is right around here, which then means that Peanut can move down into the river and kill the Scuttle Crab And if he doesn't encounter Elise, he can then transition smoothly into his blue side jungle. If Elise reads the situation by doing this, and then Peanut, you know, she does this, and then for some reason she comes over here as Peanut shows up in top lane, she can then compromise Peanut's right side jungle. But if that's going to end up being the case, as Peanut comes down into the jungle, he should be able to check on the blue, see that it's up, and then give information over to Faker, Wolf, and Bang that Elise is now on this side of the map. What this ends up doing, though, is that Elise does not, or she no longer has the luxury to go like this. She can't do 1, 2, 3, 4 proxy, and then down into 5. So through this, Graves is going to end up coming out victorious because Graves will have the ability to go like this, and then up to top lane, gank, down into blue, take this, path back up towards top, and then potentially Bengi top or eat his golems. After he eats his golems, then he gets the recall off. Wraith Camp is now up after the recall, and because of Wraith Camp up, he knows that there's no incentive to be on this side of the map because the timing to hand off the blue to Faker is not going to come for a few minutes. So now with all the top lane pressure relieved, Nautilus can then dictate the pace of the laning phase. They know that Elise is compromised on the left-hand side. They have Scuttle Crab, and now Peanut can actually just go like this and then stand by. Coming out from SKTelecom. The other thing that I didn't get to talk about is that assuming something really horrific happened, level 1, Score would have incentive to potentially even just go bot lane. So they're taking standard routes. So there's none of those ultra aggressive variations coming out. And Peanut, I think, is misreading the situation, or not necessarily misreading it, actually, it depends. If he does blue before Gromp, then he's misreading the situation. If he does Gromp before blue, then he's not. Okay, so he's making a mistake. Because he has to know that it's of no importance for him to have the blue immediately right now, because there's absolutely no way that Score can actually come down to bottom lane. So in terms of clear efficiency, he's not super far behind Elise, because he's probably going to end up doing Gromp right here. But now you can see that the way that bottom lane is positioned, what he's going to probably do right here is he can either recall immediately off the Gromp, or he can come into river, eat the Scuttle Crab, and then recall. Because he's not going to have any incentive to be mid lane, because Faker is obviously going to do the Tear of the Goddess recall. And now off the recall that Peanut is likely to have, now he paths immediately up to golems, and then if top lane is shoved in the way that it is, it creates an immediate path to just do a swing. Interesting. Smeb actually takes away the Blasting Cone. That doesn't really do too much to Graves. Score coming in now, trying to get some information, and Peanut's actually looking for some aggressive plays. He knows that Elise isn't here. He knows Elise will never be here. Interesting match. Because they know that Faker wants to recall. And so all that Peanut's actually here for is in the event of if Elise shows up. They get the ghost out of him. Pawn needs to shove in the wave and recall. He has the Serrated Dirk already. He doesn't need to actually stay for the wave. If he was going to stay for the wave, so here's already an error. If he's going to stay for the wave, it would have been actually better because Ryze wouldn't get this wave anyway, so you can actually split the experience with your jungler. And then that removes some of the pressure from your jungler having failed a gank attempt. Because it would mean that the other jungler gets tempo control. Peanut's actually messing up the auto attacks on Graves. Okay. Baker's back in mid. Now you can see that Elise is, the onus is on Elise to make something happen, and she's not doing it. And this actually ties into what I said the mistake was, is we noticed that Peanut's route, right? This, could have easily just been this. And it would have enabled him a little bit better of an advantage, and his blue buff would last a little bit longer. And so it's a misread on what the champions or what the lane matchups are going to do. It's extremely slight, but obviously at this level of play, any sort of microscopic advantage is actually a lot bigger than it would otherwise be. Oh no. Oh, okay. And they lose a pink ward. That's actually quite big right now. And interestingly, Pawn actually opted out of the Serrated Dirk. Oh wait, no, he didn't have the. I was looking at his total gold, I think. Oh no. Was I? Maybe I was. Okay, I actually I made an error earlier. I was looking at his total gold and I saw the 1165. Even still, it would have meant that Elise should have actually came to help shove. Nothing's really happening right now. Everything's pretty standard, although Deft and Mata aren't actually doing the best of jobs in bottom lane. Interesting. They made a mistake. They could have recalled here. But I think that what Bang is trying to do is he's trying to play out until tier plus Sheen. He doesn't need to do that, but it's a decision that he's made. In that case, it's not really a mistake, but now you can see that Mod is actually trying to hold the lock, and this is why they actually had made a mistake. Oh god. Okay. They get 2 summoners for 1. And now Mod is unlocked to go roam because he knows that now Karma has to actually recall. They're moving Score and Pawn down to apply pressure to the blue side jungle because they know that there's absolutely no way for Wolf to defend it, and they have a pretty good idea that Peanut is going to be on the left-hand side of the map. And now Mod is unlocked. Should probably actually see him move. Yeah, this is what I meant by unlocked. He's able to move to mid lane and apply pressure now. Ping goes down onto Peanut. Gold scores are extremely even. And so like already, KT, they're not really accruing the type of advantages that they should have wanted to get in this game in particular. And I mean, the gold difference right now is 400, but they're pretty far behind, to be completely honest. That this is a very, very rough spot for KT. Because we're almost reaching critical point. Wow. Okay. They might try something here. Here's Mata as well. Oh! Peanut gets it. They don't have teleport from either top laner. Well, Smeb has teleport, but that doesn't matter so much. RQ. Yeah, now they call him the ultimate. Or not the ultimate, the teleport. Oh, the equalizer from Smeb. Oh, too aggressive. You won teleport. You didn't need to do that. You won teleport and you won half a kill. Oh, you won teleport, half a kill. You won a camp. That equates to a kill, and you won blue buff. Really big, really big mistakes by SKTelecom. They don't need to do this. So let's take a look at this. Let's go back to how it all builds up. Okay, so we're talking about how SKT is actually pretty far ahead right now. Interestingly, actually, Bang went for pickaxe instead of the Sheen with the tier. So I guess it was because he couldn't sustain to it. So right now, they're looking to make a play on the blue. And as they're making a look to play onto the blue, we can see that even though rubber banding is going to be in effect, they have level 6 versus level 7 in the jungle. Okay, in your mid lane, the deficit that your mid laner's at is then negating your advantage that you have up in top lane. But then you look at the 80 carries, and Bang is actually ahead in the lane where he's not necessarily supposed to be ahead in. And we can also see that Peanut is actually massively ahead of Score. And we entertain the fact that this team composition has superior scaling for specific spike moments throughout the game. SKTelecom is in a really good spot. So when KT actually go for this play, you have to remember that Mata doesn't have the exhaust available on him. And even though they're late to react to this, it doesn't really matter that much. Peanut actually with a really interesting flash You can see that Mata even misread it. Peanut gets the blue buff. Now, this isn't just the blue buff. This is experience away from Mata, experience away from Pawn, experience away from score. You win the camp, which you see the camp is 100 gold, right? So you win the camp that's 100 gold. You also win the fact that right now we agree that the current state of the game is advantageous for SKTelecom. Both teams are getting a passive gold lead. So if the game freezes temporarily and it keeps increasing at a steady gold rate, right, it is advantageous to SKTelecom because of their scaling components. So you get 100 gold that the enemy team does not have a way to suddenly make up for in the moment. By the time they would be able to make up for the 100 gold, you then also can respond with a camp of your own. So now Mata ends up taking quite a lot of damage. Peanut turns around. The ultimate from Bang misses, so he needs to get benched. And now you have Wolf actually coming around. And you have Faker, and he's going to cast his ultimate. And you can see that now the teleport is actually called in from Smeb. Okay, so Mata is missing experience, and then at the same time that all of this is happening, the bottom laners have been pulled away. You don't have teleport on Huni, but Smeb actually had teleport advantage up in top lane. Now, you see that there's actually a wave that is happening up in top. This wave, we can assume maybe is going to be worth 80 to 100 gold plus X experience. Okay, now if Smeb ends up getting locked up in mid lane for the incoming minion wave, you then also factor in, Y to the equation, which is that incoming minion wave, and it equals, another gold value. All of this would assume that SKTelecom should willingly want to handshake on this. And so when they go for the kills right here, as soon as this happens, it should just be over. There should be absolutely no reason to press on anymore, because now what's going to end up happening is you look at score, and where is score really going to go? Is he going to do this? Is he going to go bing, bing? Well, now the blue buff handoff timing isn't really that great. And if you recall at this point, your top laner, by the time he gets to top lane, Huni's going to be recalling. So now you come up to top lane, you hand off the blue, you eat Gromp, and you eat Wolves, but it doesn't necessarily mean that top is reset at this point. So now you're funneled into the right-hand side of the map again. But we've already established that the right-hand side of the map is going to be defensive in nature now, because the blue buff has already been taken away by SKTelecom. Graves doesn't have incentive to be on the right-hand side of the map, and it's a Cloud Dragon as the first Drake. So it's not like SKTelecom really need to care too much about being over there. And then they just take it too far. And it's a really gigantic blunder by SKT. Also, this forces Huni to come down when Huni could have just instead have pushed the wave. Oh, he actually killed the entire wave. So minus that gold that I assumed was there. I was wrong on that. Now SKTelecom is getting vision control down. And you can see the amount of pressure that score is actually under right now. Although Peanut coming onto this right-hand side, we already established this would be a mistake. Cleared his Wolves, but then he made a mistake getting vision control around an area that it's really not that important. Even though Huni is going to have teleport available to him soon, it's not imperative that you secure the vision control at this point in time. There's the blue buff handoff. SKT don't need to do anything. They literally just need to sit in front of their turrets and let Graves continue to power farm. Because absolutely no lane right now is good for Score. Score did catch up in levels, though, to Peanut. And now you can see that Score's path is actually not that great. Don't know what Faker and Peanut are doing. This is too forceful. Too high variance. They had absolutely no vision right there. That could have been absolutely catastrophic for them. No reason to do high variance plays. You can see now that Smeb is actually rotating down because he's able to shove in the wave, and this is something that he can make use of. He has the equalizer available to him. So if they did bring up Mata, they can cast the equalizer on Faker and then maybe try to get a kill while he has that little bit of time allowed to him from the shove that he did in top lane. You can see that now he's going to get back up to top lane and pick up the wave, and this is something that Smeb has available to him as an option, primarily because of the matchup dynamic, and it's something that, again, it should be able to be played against by SKTelecom because of how Graves should be able to interact. And now you see that they're trying to get vision control again. And this is primarily because, again, Huni has teleport. And this is around the timing where, yes, the vision control would actually be quite important. Because these are the times where, you know, offensive items do start getting completed in terms of recipe components. Roa almost actually complete for Faker. You can see his score is actually coming down. This is a pretty high variance gank. Mata does have flash and he does have exhaust, and score ends up getting spotted out. And the problem with this is now it lets Peanut actually get some tempo advantage, even though red is actually going to come up. And sometimes you do have to do stuff like this, right? Because it's not like it's going to put you super, super far behind, but it's just unfortunate that this is actually what KT do have to do. And if SKTelecom assess that situation and then they play around it, it's going to be really good for them. Be interesting. It would be really cute actually to see Faker all over the Scuttle Crab, but then you can't actually know that whether or not there's a control ward inside of the River Brush. So if Smeb actually went all the way up, maybe they could actually try to pick a kill up onto him, but he does have flash, so flash and Mercury treads already. Bang getting a lot of damage down. And you can see Score just actually getting quite a bit of poke down onto Faker, but they're not really in a position to try to dive him super headstrong. Now you can see that KT, they have a freeze down in bottom lane, but that doesn't really matter because this is a timing where Bang wants to recall anyway. So Score now, because of the chunk onto Faker and because of how bottom lane played out, he comes in, he gets the blue buff. Nothing's really happening. Peanut is under no obligation to go aggressive, and wow, Score even shows himself. Yes, Bang is recalling, but with Peanut right there, I mean, the end of the line should be able to actually wave clear this. And Bang actually even stays because they rotate down pawn. They have teleport on Smeb, but teleport also on Huni. Yep, so they managed to repel the wave, and what this ends up doing is now Faker gets dictatorship over mid lane, and you can see that Smeb is actually being rotated down in the event that Faker would go too far up or perhaps even try to take a trade against Jace, but Faker looks like he wants to recall for Roa. Yep. It's like Huni just wants to get those last minions, but actually makes a little bit of a mistake. Smeb did not need to shove that wave out. That's a mistake. He could have easily used that wave to lock because Huni's not in a position to actually contest. You saw how bad the trade actually went for Huni. And so Smeb actually just made a little bit of a mistake right there. Not the end of the world. Another reason that it's even more of a mistake is because you know that Peanut was on the bottom half of the map, and he's not going to be able to come up to top lane to alleviate any of that pressure. Nice. Yellow starts playing in Korea. SKTelecom rotate down to bottom. They have teleport on Huni, and I like what they're doing with Peanut. Peanut moving into mid lane to pick up the wave. And so they're just trying to apply pressure. And this is actually, if you guys watched the debate earlier between Kelsey Weldon and I, this is actually an example of using offense as defense. They're making KT respond to them, and then by doing so, you're forcing KT to go into a defensive nature or a neutral nature, which they don't want to be in. They want to be going aggressive at you because SKTelecom should be the ones that are in a defensive position. And thus, by doing so, you're forcing KT to invest into resources that they never want to be investing into, and you're alleviating pressure from yourselves. There's no reason to handshake this. Oh! Oh, okay. There was no reason to handshake that by SKTelecom. They should be content right here to actually give up a turret. They can easily give up bottom lane turret because the dragon's not important. Give up bottom lane turret, and then if you give up bottom lane turret, just let fucking Deft and Mata have this, because Faker is right now at a point where he's pretty stable inside of mid lane, and top lane is still going pretty neutral, even though top turret has a lot of pressure on it on Hoonie's side, right? But if you give up this turret and you lock it right here, you can then have Wolf and Faker in mid lane, and then if you bring in Peanut, who's farming relative to Wraiths or Wolves, it makes it extremely difficult for KT to penetrate at this point in time, especially when you consider the blue buff handoff that'll come in coming moments. This is actually a situation where giving up the turret would be advantageous to a team, because the gold lead that KT would get from it is not the kind of gold lead that they need. They would actually end up losing resources in the long run. What? All right. Just let the tower die, SKT. Just let it die. But instead, they're actually rotating Faker and Wolf down. They're constantly trying to do this pressure relief, but I feel like it's a little bit unnecessary. And now Pawn actually takes the bait and tries to shove in the lane, but Faker and Peanut couldn't quite get enough of a wrap on him. I really like how both of the teams are playing right now. They're taking this Drake as it's an opportunistic Drake, because you know that Pawn was forced to reset. And now you know that your bottom lane had initiative. And so it's a pretty nice little pickup for SKTelecom, because we also established earlier what the Drakes meant for both teams. Infernal Drake coming on the field is important for both of these teams. It's really, really, really important. Here's the blue buff handoff. And this is what I was talking about. You imagine if Pawn or Deft and Mata rotated to mid lane against the blue handoff, while Faker has blue and Wolf is in mid, and you know, assuming that KT doesn't land a hook, and they might not even really want to against the Karma shields, in addition to the fact that you can have Peanut there with Faker, you know, it's always going to be pretty fine, because Pawn doesn't yet have the ammo to play a war against Faker's mana sustain and get him off the turret. And there's not enough damage onto the turret where you could handshake that and give up the advantage that you accrued via the First Blood turret and the CS lead that you would have occurred, or you would have gotten on Caitlyn. So it really looks like KT's ahead right now, but they're not. They're very, very far behind. Rift Herald goes down to itself. Looks like Bang is actually looking for a little bit more poke. Peanut decides he's not really that hungry. He's not going to overeat. Score sees Peanut and says, hey, he doesn't have his red buff, so now they know that his red buff's up. You can see that Peanut's actually going there. And it's actually now getting to a point where Ezreal should overthrow Caitlyn. We're about to reach that point. He is going Trinity Force anyway. Oof. Okay, now Peanut gonna get his red. You can see that Score is just really hard pressed to make anything happen. And that's just something that occurs inside of the draft phase. Losing top lane is actually really bad for SK Telecom. Losing bot lane would be advantageous. But if they can get bottom lane in exchange for top lane, then it's not the end of the world. Because then it ends up putting Deft inside of a long lane against Huni, which is something that he doesn't want to do. And then it lets you have a lane that you can actually funnel gold into Ryze, Peanut, or Bang. I don't know why I didn't say Faker, but... And so now after Huni ends up shoving in this lane, the game, in my opinion, is not really at, well, the game at this stage is not really at a point yet where KT has enough mobility to really create things. And you can see now, yeah, this is what I was about to talk about, is you don't actually need to send your bottom lane up to top. That's a lane now that you can dedicate to Faker. And this is one of the changes that occurs, where if you surrender bottom lane, it's different because then you lock Bang in bottom, and then you keep Faker and Wolf mid lane, and then you let Huni stay up in top lane. But if you trade bottom for top turret, then it becomes the fact that you can put Bang and Wolf in mid lane, which is going to be a lot safer than Faker and Wolf in terms of juking that hook, etc. And then you give Faker the top lane farm, and it then also puts Deft into the long lane against Huni. Which you can see that Deft's not actually going to be able to accomplish too much. And oddly enough as well, SK Telecom's actually getting a boatload of damage down onto this turret, and I don't feel like this is something that KT should be willing to handshake on. Very bizarre as well that they elect to move pawn around the map the way that they are. You can see Peanuts just coming in now on the right-hand side. Remember, Dragon's coming up in a few minutes, so any sort of vision control, that can go back and forth 2 minutes on it is that much more important because of the ward duration. But then in addition to that, your sweeper lens, cooldown, etc. And then you can ultimately have more wards. If you place the wards sweep, they place the wards sweep, but then you're coming off a recall. So then your sweep and wards will have the tempo advantage on them. See, they're rotating pawn up to deal with Faker, but then it's coming at a cost of being unable to properly hold your mid-tier 1. And so this is why it would be better for KT to actually just let Smeb stay up in top lane and try to farm as the waves come underneath his turret, because it's not like Faker's actually going to be able to kill him underneath his turret. But then you have that teleport advantage. Or alternatively, KT should just let tier 1 die, because mid turret it's really the critical part of the map for both of these teams at this point in time. Now it looks like KT is actually potentially going to have a way. Well, I thought they were going to be able to crack it, but apparently not. Now Faker, a little bit caught out inside of the long lane. They end up picking him up. And immediately off of this, it would be, all right, so as soon as Faker goes down, Huni does have teleport. Sack this, have Elise and Jay shove in this, even though you don't really have that much of a wave. Shove in this, eat golems, rotate down through mid, because then if SK Telecom end up pushing a little bit too much, the resources that they're going to invest into the capture of this turret then enables you to shove this, rotate down, transition into Dragon. And then at that point, Faker's still down. You control the vision control around here. They're going to be preoccupied with the fact that their blue buff is up and the fact that bottom lane is atrocious. So now, if you're KT, you rotate down, you surrender mid, you get the Dragon, and then you have a nice, beautiful wave that's going to be waiting for you, and you're going to have top lane control. Because this lane is actually going to collide up here, but they can't actually send anyone to get it. So this is a situation where KT should let their mid tier 1 die in the event that SKT would overextend. And they don't do it. Look at the amount of damage that is being dished out. Oh, they did have a little bit of a wave. Oh, this actually changes things up. I thought they had no wave. Changes things up very slightly. Because now they actually had the option to get a little bit of turret damage down if Score and Pawn shove the lane in a little bit harder and then recall together instead of moving down to mid. And then just you move towards Dragon like this. Now SK Telecom actually get initiative over the Dragon, and this is something that should never have been allowed to happen. The other problem is you take a look at the sweeper lenses, and it's not the best spot to be in. You still have it up on Elise, but with Huni having teleport, Oh, man. Why? Why, KT? SKT wants to lose mid-tier 1 here. Yep. Now, they did not want to get cut off like this. And so this is actually really good by KT. Bang almost goes down, but Mata went a little bit too ham. Peanut ends up whiffing the collateral damage on the target that he was intended to go on. But nonetheless, this is actually a really good trade for them, no matter what. Oh, the team fighting. Peanut. Oh! Smeb's gonna... Wow. Nice. Nice turret juggle. So here's the mistake. Faker doesn't need to take this route right here, okay? Because you know that you have the teleport on Huni. So Faker could have gone like this, and if Faker goes like that, then him and Wolf can actually go into mid lane. Yes, you're going to surrender your mid-tier 1, but you're not going to end up getting forked the way that they did. That's where the mistake ends up occurring. Especially because Faker's in the fog of war, and they can't make a baseless assumption on what route is he going to take. See, this is where the real problem lies, is Faker's cut off in addition to Bang and Peanut. And now he's screwed. Yeah. This is really good by KT, but it could have been avoided by SKTelecom. And this is where the real problem starts, that shock blast onto Bang. Mata lands the hook. And then Peanut, like, he takes the hook. Didn't quite see Peanut was there. Mata definitely could have gone down if Peanut just landed the ultimate. And then if that does end up happening, it's a pretty big pickup for SKTelecom. This minion wave is about to die. You can see that Wolf is actually running away. But what it would ultimately mean is that SKTelecom would probably be a lot more content with just letting this unfold in a different manner. So you can see like what's happening here is Score has his cocoon. Deft, this is just a dream scenario right now for KT. It's a scattered fight where SKTelecom don't want to actually be scattered. They want to be together and condensed in a manner that doesn't leave them too susceptible to an equalizer. But they want to be able to just dissuade KT from pushing right now because they haven't all come off of a recall recently. Only Faker recently came off of a recall. So it's a little bit of a problematic situation. Huni goes into bottom lane. This is fine. Taking another quick look at this team fight. So Bang gets hit by the shock blast, obviously. Mata lands the hook. Mata takes the hook because I don't think that he sees Graves. You can maybe assume that Peanut's over there, but perhaps they thought that they could actually get Bang there. Peanut ends up missing onto Mata, and then Wolf, because of this, is actually going a little bit too aggressive over here on the left. Wolf actually makes a mistake that KT is aware of because they had a ward on him. So Wolf went a little bit too ham, and this is also primarily because Huni was coming in and he was going to get onto Caitlyn. If this is done a little bit differently, SKTelecom can play this fight out. So you see where Huni is teleporting in from. And then they go on to Deft, and I don't know if that's actually the... They go on to Deft, Deft flashes away, Peanut tries to go into position, Faker actually steps onto a trap, and Bang's not really in position to offer too much damage. And Huni ended up even missing his Q. So this was a teamfight blunder by SKTelecom in a few ways, but it was really good of KT to capitalize on the opportunity and push on. And this is also a really nice juggle of turret aggro. So SKTelecom, it looks like they're behind, but they're really not. They're down 3 turrets, and they're down 2k gold. But that doesn't really mean anything. If you factor in like what an Infernal Drake is actually giving to Peanut, Faker, and Bang right now, the gold deficit is probably irrelevant. And then you also factor in the base scaling on these champions, and it's going to be a lot better for SKTelecom because they also have a lot more gears available to them the longer that the game unfolds. And KT are not going to really be in a position for the foreseeable future to penetrate SKTelecom's base without, you know, Baron or Elder Dragon, which there's still another dragon left to come. And now you can see the gold gap drops to 2,000. You can see that Smeb actually coming in from behind uses the equalizer, and he's just actually going to go down. They don't end up picking up the kill onto anyone. They don't know that Score is actually looming on the horizon. Peanut reacts to it a little bit slow. Doesn't seem to matter that much, and they actually get the flash out of Score. And all the meanwhile, what was happening is you can see that Faker's coming down. He has his ultimate available. This can get really, really bad for KT. So what they're trying to do here is you see that Smeb was in bottom. They could have they could have an idea that, yeah, he's going to come up through river, right? You can see the pings are going down onto him. But the problem is that right now what KT is doing is they're trying to coin flip a fight because they realize that they're on a clock. And you can't let SKTelecom continue to just keep scaling up, because what's going to happen right here is you look at top wave, you look at bottom wave. Both of these are going into SKT, and it doesn't leave KT any ability to make use of them. With the mid-tier 2 and the mid-tier 1 being down, this really condenses the terrain in which SKTelecom have to defend from. Yes, you have control over their jungle, but that's really a limited factor when we also factor in the fact that they want to fight inside of a condensed area as long as they can juke the equalizer. Smeb ends up getting caught out. We already saw this. Now we can go forward again. And to me, what it looks like is a team fight is just going to eventually break out where SKTelecom pulsate bottom and top lane, and they force a team fight either around Baron or mid lane so that the lanes end up looking like this, right? You have a shoving, and you have shoving, and then they will escort the mid wave, and then they will have control inside of this rectangle, and then they'll force the fight here, and then they end the game that way. Because KT's team composition isn't equipped to deal with a maneuver like that. Not if they're behind. See, now Faker's actually just going a little bit too far up, manages to make it out anyway, takes some minions with him. I can see it's just a constant farming fest. SKT seem to know exactly what they need to do. And on the flip side, KT do seem to know what they need to do as well, as they're trying to force very aggressive fights, and a lot of them are pretty high variance without proper intel. So now you can see what's happening. Bang almost has Blade of the Ruined King. Maybe they're just waiting for that in order to start the fight. You can see that they're looking for picks, and this is what they're reduced to at this point. They're reduced to guerrilla warfare to try to pull themselves back into the game. Really well played by Peanut, but he ends up getting caught out anyway. And this is the type of plays that KT have to do. Nautilus feels bad, man. Oh my god! That damage. And so they get a pick onto Peanut, but it doesn't really grant that much. You can see now that they're going to rotate down to bottom lane. They have a wave coming up, and you know that Rumble is about to shove in this last wave, so they have at least 6 minions down in bottom. But it doesn't really mean anything. You can see that they can't make use of anything, and this reminds me of Zerg versus Terran, or it reminds me of Refugee Toss, basically. KT are really hard-pressed to do something. They're going to get bottom tier 2 turret. What does that actually do at 30 minutes in the game? Look at their gold lead right now. It's 51, 51.2 to 52. That doesn't change anything. It does absolutely nothing. The bomb has already been set. Dragon coming up in 50 seconds is another Cloud Drake though, so that's of no aid to KT. They need to actually kill it as fast as possible, whereas SKTelecom would actually be content with letting that live as long as possible, because then it removes the potential of Elder Dragon coming out onto the map, which is one of the ways that KT can actually come to a win condition. So SKTelecom would ideally like to just prevent that type of objective from ever, opening up an option for KT. Because yes, you can argue that SKTelecom would obviously like to get the Elder Dragon, but they don't need it. KT actually need the Dragon. You can see KT now escorting the mid wave. Top lane is actually shoving into KT. This is actually really good right now, because if a neutral objective ends up going down, it means that they can funnel resources into one of their carries that SKTelecom cannot make use of, even though SKTelecom are not in a position that they need to make use of anything, because they're content to just be like, okay, let's go to 4, 5, 6 items. They can handshake that all day, every day. And now Smeb actually a little bit out of position. And these are the type of gears that I was talking about earlier. And it looks like actually they botched the fight, but Wolf and Huni get down here. Really, really nice team fighting. Actually, Mata goes down, Deft gets hooked, and they almost end up turning the fight. Quite an extended fight. Looks like Banner of Command is actually out for Wolf, and that just takes away from Rumble's ability, or Smeb's, to deal with it. And the fight ended up happening, and you can see that SKTelecom have no interest in actually trying to control anything around the dragon or even get the dragon. Perhaps they would have picked it up actually with the kill onto Smeb, because you can make the argument that obviously having more elemental drakes is going to be more advantageous for your Elder Dragon, but it's not something that you really need to consider that much. So now, if you're SKTelecom, you have the handshake occurring. Let me just pause this really quick. Why can't I pause? Okay. So this is the thing I was talking about. The arrow and the arrow, right? Although I don't know if that wave is actually pushing in completely. If it's not, then you use Bang's ultimate, although I don't think that it's up. Use Bang's ultimate to push it in. So you get the pulsate, and you get the pulsate, come up mid, get the red buff, get this, get that, etc. Force them to fight you inside of the rectangle, or force a stalemate in mid lane because you win a head-on engagement. They have teleport on Huni though, and with Smeb actually being up in top lane, they just decide to keep him in bottom. If Huni didn't have teleport, he would probably just shove in this last wave and then make sure that the lane is slow pushing. You don't want it to push too fast because then it bounces back to you faster. So that's some very, very specific lane manipulation that you would have to do. Like for instance, leaving 3 spellcaster minions or something and taking a look at, where your incoming reinforcement wave is. Wolf ends up getting caught out though. Him getting caught out is actually really, really big because SKTelecom are way more reliant on being a unit than KT are. You can see that SKTelecom is trying to attack the map by shoving in the wave, but Faker barely manages to live there. Holy shit, that's a feels bad man moment. But Pawn ends up picking him up. Equalizer comes in, and any sort of these extended fights can get really ugly, but Deft actually ends up going down. Deft goes down to Peanut. If Deft lives here, the game is really, really, really bad. If Peanut can't get the kill onto Huni, this game changes pretty drastically. Yeah. Bang ends up picking up the kill onto Ezreal, and that's that mid lane fight that even without Wolf, they were still able to come out ahead in, but it was very crucial that they take down Deft. They're going to be able to turn their attention now to Baron. Score's up. He's going to need to steal the Baron if they want to keep him in the game, but he's nowhere around. And it doesn't even look like he has any intent to go up there. And I really like what Score's doing right now. He's attacking Baron without attacking Baron. He says, okay, I can't get to the Baron to necessarily stop it, but I realize that you don't really have that many minions in mid or top lane. Let me go down to bottom lane. Let me shove out all of those minions. Let me eat them so that you have no minions to buff. Yes, you get the Baron. Yes, you get the gold. And you have the buffed minions in one lane, but you don't have them anywhere else. And then taking a look at this replay, it was a little bit feels bad man where Faker ended up living, and this actually forced Pawn to flash, because if Pawn is able to stay here, then Deft isn't obligated to position the way that he was. Like if Faker had just gone down, then Deft can just get out. Deft can position here. But then instead, you see that Deft actually stands still. He shoots a Q, and then he's standing still and casting traps. He doesn't need to do that if Faker goes down sooner. Feels bad, man, that Peanut didn't actually get the kill onto Mata as well, but it didn't matter. They were able to salvage the fight in the end. And now SKTelecom with the Baron, I feel like it's basically going to be lights out. SKT actually getting the Cloud Drake, I feel like that's a mistake, because again, they don't actually need it to win the game. Huni going to go down up in top lane, and it looks like KT are handshaking a trade that they can't actually keep up with. You see that they're losing 2 turrets and now they're teleporting. They didn't even have a minion wave. So I have no idea what KT is actually doing here. And you can see the Guardian Angel even stalled it a little bit more. It doesn't even matter really about the equalizer. They're still going to be able to get the turret. And you have Bang in mid lane. Did so much damage. Now they're going to turn around. They're going to be able to get red. They're going to regroup. Recall. They have the Baron. Enhanced recall. And now, how, as KT, do you find a way out of this? You're down in gold versus a superior team composition, and your lanes are all atrocious. So now, some gears that SKT can actually use. So because Huni still has teleport, who can actually go bottom because it's an open inhibitor, right? Even though he doesn't have the Baron. He can go bottom, and then in addition to that, what you can do is you can have Peanut, Bang, and Wolf, who have a lot of disengagement tools, and they have a lot of things that are relatively obnoxious, given the fact that you know that Smeb doesn't have teleport available to him. And what that means is that if all three of them are standing right here, okay, and if Baron does end up persisting through, they're standing right here, you have Faker here, and then you have Huni down here, you rotate now Huni, or you rotate Faker down with Huni, and now suddenly you can't send one member to defend it because Ryze does the auto attacks, hypothetically if a turret was up, but a turret's not up in this situation. But Ryze throws the auto attacks, and then Huni peels for him, and you eventually, slowly but surely, get the turret in a 2-0-3 fashion. But it is originally started as a, or not a 2-0-3, I'm sorry, other way around. In a 3-1-1 into a 3-0-2 fashion. And that's one of the things that Ryze can do. Now, alternatively, something else that they have available to them is the fact that they can do a 4-1-0 in bottom after making sure that the lane is pulsating into KT. And then as for up and top, they can move to right here, which then cuts off KT from entering right here. And then they use Faker's ultimate to actually come in on the turret, raise the turret, get the inhibitor, kite down, get the inhibitor back out through red. And now what ends up happening is top lane is actually shoving back into SKTelecom, which is now a lane that SKT immediately want to make use of and KT can't make use of, and it's going to be a dead lane creating dead gold for KT. Really, really, really bad spot right now for KT. And, I mean, they have to know it too. Thing shooting the ult. Oh, this is interesting. Do they do it? I'll fast forward a little bit. Okay. So they have Huni going down to bottom. You have Faker in mid lane. This is exactly what I was talking about, although now they're rotating Peanut and Wolf. Bang actually took quite a lot of damage, but he's going to be able to heal that back up with that Blade of the Ruined King. Slowly but surely. Wow, 79 a hit. Oof. Did it hit? No, it missed. Okay. And I really like what KT are doing, is they're trying to stay at a midway point so that SKT can't get them underneath the turret, but this is actually exactly the type of rotation that it is opened up to you when you have that Ryze. Peanut ends up juking. That's all they have to do. They just have to thread the needle, and it's all over. It's just a dance that they have to coordinate. Alternatively, something that I guess I didn't talk about is you can actually have Bang solo push up in top lane, get matched by one person, and then you have Faker, Peanut, and Wolf in mid lane as 3, and then eventually you shove the wave into the turret, they back up defensively, you move up a little bit through Wolves or through right here, and then you ultimate on top of the turret, and then you collapse and you eat it, and then you back up through top lane, and you use that to secure a turret. It doesn't really grant you the inhibitor, but it does create pressure in bottom lane and in top lane, grants you an objective, and mid lane is going to remain dark. So if you're KT and you're looking at this and you're wondering, okay, well, how do I win at this point in the game? You have to look at it like you need to make some sort of a pick, or you need to hope that SKTelecom actually make a mistake, because realistically, there should be no way for you to force SKTelecom to make a mistake, given the amount of control that they have over the terrain. And you have to basically just make a pick and then out-team fight them. And it's going to come down to really an equalizer, and a lot of the emphasis is going to be on to pawn. You have to wait for your lanes to push out. Somehow, advantageously, you wait for Smeb to have teleport, and then you have Smeb actually escort the bottom wave as far up as he can, and then you have 4 people move up mid lane, and you just need to actually neglect one of your lanes. And in this case, it's actually going to be top lane. Some of the variables could change, in which case you actually neglect bottom lane, and then you have Smeb go up into top lane, and you have 4 people go into mid. And you force SKTelecom back out onto the map, you regain control over the terrain, some of the fog of war, clear out the wards, and you set up areas to invite them into the jungle. So it's basically like you're inside of the jungle. So here's a little tree. Okay, here's a tree, and here's a tree. And then you're like weird fucking tribal people. And so this, like all of everything inside of these trees, right? And we're gonna draw some happy little mountains right here, okay? So everything between the trees and the mountains in the background, okay, is controlled by SKTelecom. They have beacons on it, they have cameras, they have absolutely everything. So what you need to do, because you guys live in here, you need to move out through the forest, clear all of that shit out, and then SKTelecom's waiting here, okay? They're on the beach. All right, so there's like the beach, and there's like waves, congratulations, all right? And then there's turtles, because why not? Okay, so there's turtles. And then, the beach obviously has a lot of water on it, because all the water is actually made up of NA and EU's hopes and dreams, tier 750 out of 750. And what you need to do as KT is now you come out of the forest and you taunt them, to come back in. And when you taunt them to come back in, you now have the cameras up and you have everything set up and stuff. And so SK Telecom, they try to bring the fight to you. They surround you and they try to come into your jungle, and then the guerrilla warfare ends up unfolding. And then you have to pick them off and then get objectives and secure stuff and win the game that way. That's basically the tug of war and the handshake that you need to accept. You need to actually let SKT control your own home before you can take it back from them. It's the long con, you know? Okay. They're opting into a 1-1-3. Not the strongest of rotations, but one of the things that this does do is it simultaneously defends Elder Drake, and it pulls attention away from the left-hand side of the map, which is Baron. And this is why they're doing it at this stage of the game, because Baron's actually coming up in less than 2 minutes, which is why they initiate this rotation. They're saying, hey, I want you to devote all your resources down here. I want all your wards here. I want your sight stones here. I want your sweepers here. I want your control wards, if you have any slots available. I want everything down here somewhere, right? And then what they're going to do is they can end up backing up, and they'll be like, okay, sure, we're going to recall, and now they beat you to Baron. You end up resetting, but as you move into the Baron, they have vision control in the choke points. And you end up coming out behind. And again, guys, these are strategic maneuvers that it's not just applicable to this game. This transcends just this game. This is just strategy in general. And this is a type of tug of war that, you know, you can make use of and you can do. How Elder Drake's up and SK Telecom are in a position to get it, but it does present the opportunity that KT does now have a chance. So before, let's say that KT have a 1% chance to win the fight and get Elder. That 1% is greater than the 0% had they not taken the Cloud Drake. It is infinitely greater. So now this is something that SK Telecom have created themselves. Yes, it provides an option to end the game faster, and it will temporarily increase their chances at a specific point in the game to win faster. But it, at the same exact time, does create an opening for KT. Oh, deft! Oh no, I saw that from a mile away. No, it's all over. They can't win the straight up fight. You need guerrilla warfare. The only way that KT will ever win this game is guerrilla warfare. Can't win the straight up fight. Huni actually teleporting a little bit early. It's obvious that they don't need him right now. He could have waited, gotten Sork Elixir, and then teleport to the turret and then raise the turret. That's something that's extremely nitty gritty. But imagine right now if a minion is locked up by both of these turrets. That would be so bad. Even if the difference of increasing the chance to win is, 0.2 or, 0.1, no reason not to do it. Not at this level of play. And so that is it for SK Telecom versus KT Rolster Game 1. I think that SKT and KT were both aware of what their team compositions were meant to do. I think that Score was making some mistakes early on. I think Peanut was making some mistakes. I think that Faker actually made some bizarre rotational choices at points where he didn't need to do it, but obviously in the pro level, when you obviously don't have map hack and stuff, you do have to sometimes make decisions that may seem like it's going to be proper. But I felt like looking at it from both of their perspectives, a lot of the stuff that I talked about was entertaining, the things that they were both seeing and what they could assume and imply from the knowledge that they were being granted. Overall, it was a pretty high-level game, but the inevitable was obviously coming from even like the 18-minute mark. you could see that this was actually going to be what was unfolding. When they were both so close in gold at 20 minutes or so, despite KT or SKT making the blunder in mid lane, going a little bit too ham on the fight when Smeb recalled, that was like the only point where KT got a reward and they were able to punish SKTelecom. So I hope that you enjoyed that, and we're going to go into game number 2 now.